So we have a couple of folks that wanted to acknowledge as well. We've met our great donors, we've met our students, and there's three folks here that are instrumental in making sure all the dots connect. And we want to acknowledge them for their great work. So first out of the foundation, we've got our program coordinator and donor relations. We've got Katie Green. Katie, please stand. We've got out of our financial aid office here at the university, we've got Elise Well, our interim director of financial aid. Elise, thank you, great job. And we've got Amber Rivers, our financial aid director of scholarships. Amber, thank you. Also tonight, volunteering and working is our members of our Student Alumni Council. If you all would stand, please. You guys were awesome. Come on, guys, stand. Thank you. They welcomed us. They were at the table. Great representatives of the university. Thank you, guys. Then this was a boo-boo on my part. One of my bosses of the foundation executive committee is here, and I failed. Going through my notes, I passed over his name, but not on purpose because I wanted to wait till now to recognize him. So we've got Greg Webb with us. Greg, please stand. Greg does a great job for us. Incredible job, thank you. And Charlotte, we talked about Title IX, didn't we, before? The great legislation you pioneered, you were instrumental in getting for our nation. Well, we mentioned two of our basketball players before. But I want you to know we got our starting point guard on the women's team with us right here. Kiera Q-Love. Kiera, come on, Kiera, stand up. Q has got great game, and I'm telling you what. As you know, our Saluki women's team won the Missouri Valley Conference Championship last year. Q, and I thank you because I got a nice ring out of it. I forgot to bring. Q, do you have your ring on? Oh, come on, Q, we got to wear our rings. But Q Lettuce is just a great leader. We're excited about our women's basketball team. So let's go ahead. You know, the highlight of the night always is hearing from one of our donors and hearing from one of our student recipients. So we've got last year, Dawn Cordy rocked the house with her speech. So Judith, you got some pressure on you tonight. But anyway, we are really pleased to have with us Judith Rawls. Judith is class of 64, journalism here at SIU. I'm going to read a little bit about Judith's really impressive background. So bear with me, there's some shadows in here and everything, but you want to hear this career. So Judith, a newspaper industry veteran. Judith was a rarity in the profession as a top-ranking woman executive with credentials as both an award-winning journalist and a successful businesswoman. Judith retired in 2000 as publisher and executive vice president of the St. Petersburg Times, one of the nation's 25 largest newspapers. How about that, Judith? Awesome. Previously, Judith was president of Independent Newspapers, a small news organization headquartered in Delaware, where she began her career as a reporter in a rural bureau, working her way up through local and state beats to Washington, D.C., bureau chief, and ultimately switching to the business side to run to the company. After her great professional career in journalism, Judith has also served in the federal government. She was appointed Assistant Deputy Administrator of the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration by President Jimmy Carter and Deputy Assistant Secretary of Environment, Safety, and Health at the U.S. Department of Energy by President Bill Clinton. Judith has been active in her retirement. She traveled extensively working to promote a free and viable world press by training journalists and newspaper owners throughout the former Soviet Union and the many third world countries. A longtime president of the Delaware River and Bay Lighthouse Foundation, she helped the organization become a financially sound prominent entity devoted to educating and promoting Delaware's maritime history. She made presentations throughout Delaware to schools, senior centers, historic societies, and other organizations regarding the history and plight of the Harbor Refuge Lighthouse. Her fundraising efforts secured over $3 million for the stabilization and repair of the National Harbor of Refuge breakwater. Dan, I think we need Judith on our campaign committee. She has authored numerous newspaper articles and a series of books on the lighthouses of Delaware. Judith has served SIU in a number of ways, a SIU Foundation board member, 2005, 2007, College of Arts and Media Advisory Board from 94 to 2000, and the College of Arts and Media Dean's National Industry Council 2003 to 2011. Judith is the recipient of the SIU Distinguished Alumni Award in 1997, the SIU Distinguished Service Award in 2000, and the SIU School of Journalism 50th Anniversary Top Graduate. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Judith Rolls.
Wow, I'm not sure I can live up to that. I want to tell you, in keeping with our purpose of being here, two stories that I think focus on the importance of journalism, but also the importance of scholarships and support of our students. When I was first starting out, I graduated in 1964, and the School of Journalism just threw me out on the world, a much better person than I came. I was very shy, I was very withdrawn. I came from a high school that had a graduating class of 21 people, and at that time SIU had more than 20,000 students, so big shock when I arrived. When I left, I was much bolder and much more confident. I jumped in my little Volkswagen and started across the country, and as I went across the country, I stopped at every city of any size to apply for a job as a reporter. And sometimes they just brushed me off and said, well, you know, we're not accepting applications. And other times they took my resume and said, we'll let you know if we have anything. And once or twice they interviewed me, but I never got a job. And then, one dark and stormy night, I arrived in Wilmington, Delaware. And at that time, Wilmington's a very industrial town, and boy, was it grimy and dirty. It was March, there'd been a snow a couple of weeks before. It was an ugly town. I spent the night there, determined to get out as soon as I could in the morning, but I read the morning paper, and I fell in love. The Wilmington Morning News, then the morning half of the News Journal, was owned by Christiana Securities. At that time, Christiana Securities was a holding company for the DuPont family. It was a very benign ownership. They gave the newspaper whatever money it needed and left it alone other than that. So it was a great newspaper, it had a good reputation, and I decided that I would apply for a job there. So I went in the morning, and when I got to the personnel office, there weren't any HR people at the time, it was just a personnel guy. He was sitting out in the outer office of his area with his secretary having coffee and chit-chatting, so he couldn't say, he was too busy to talk to me. So he let me come into his office, but he declined to ever accept my resume, which I kept trying to give him. And he said, so what are you here for? And I said, well, I'd like to apply for a job as a reporter with this newspaper. And he said, really? And we don't hire people who just walk in off the street. So I said, well, I didn't exactly just walk in off the street. I was in the area, I kind of stretched the truth. I was in the area applying and you know, doing interviews at other newspapers. And I read yours, and it was a really good newspaper, and I thought we'd be a good match. And he said, so where did you go to school? I said, I went to Southern Illinois University in Carbondale. He said, We don't hire people from no-name universities. Now, until that time, I actually thought Southern Illinois University was a name, but apparently I was wrong. So, while I was trying to think what else I might say, he said, you know, we don't hire journalism students from the Midwest unless they're from Northwestern. And I said, oh, well, that's obviously because you haven't had anybody from SIU, and you don't know how good we are. And this guy's getting very frustrated at the time. He stood up from behind his desk, he put his hands on his hips, and he said, listen, little girl, true words, listen, little girl, we don't hire girlies as news reporters. And thinking back in my mind very quickly over my journey out to the East Coast, I thought, oh my God, I must have made a serious mistake in choosing my career. This is a problem I didn't know about. So I'm trying to think about what I might say in response. He said, well, on your way out, I'll give you a tour of the building. So we walk through the building, and eventually we get to the newsroom, and he's giving me the spiel that he gives, obviously, to the Boy Scouts and the Girl Scouts and everybody else who doesn't know anything about newspapers. And here's the photo department over here. They do X, Y, Z. Here's the copy desk. They do X, Y, Z. And over there is the managing editor's office. And the managing editor's office door was open. So I have no idea what possessed me, but I just left him standing there in the middle of the room giving his spiel and walked over to the managing editor's office and, oh, surprised to see me. Well, what can I do for you? I'd like a job here as a reporter. Oh, well, come in and tell me why. Well, I think we'd be a good fit. Tell me about it, which I did. And he hired me on the spot. Now, I have to tell you, I never became bosom buddies with the personnel man. But I did well at the News Journal, and they put me on a good start to my career. Now, keeping that scenario in mind, we move forward many years to my job later, where I was publisher of the newspaper and chief operating officer of the company that owned the newspaper, running the business side of the whole operation, including several magazines and a bunch of weeklies and some other properties. And the executive committee, which consisted of me, the chairman of the board, who was an Ivy League guy, the current editor of the newspaper, who was an Ivy League guy, and the editor of our business operation publications, who was an Ivy League guy, and me. And we're talking about scholarships. We were interested in setting up a scholarship for the child of one of the employees of the company. And the conversation was going along fine with all the details and how much it should be and how you would apply, blah, blah, blah. And finally, the chairman of the board said, well, should this be just a pile of money that we give to someone to spend wherever they want to go to school? Or should we actually give this money to a particular school and have them go to that school? So the editor says, well, we want them to have a good education, so we probably don't want them to go to a state school. And the editor of the business publication says, that's right, that would do permanent damage to them. And they would not have a good start to their career, and they probably wouldn't make it in life. Now, I have to tell you, the hair raised on my arm, it really did. And I thought to myself, if the fact that they hired me and I'm sitting right here didn't say something to them about what's wrong with that idea and that belief, then there's nothing I can say right now that will change their mind. But that was the moment I decided I was going to set up a scholarship at SIU, so that for the rest of the time that I was there, there had to be their signatures on a check that went to the state university every year. So now my recipient for this year isn't here right now. His name is Jason Flynn, and he's an internet student. He lives in Chicago, and he didn't come down for the dinner. I don't think I would have come from Chicago either for the dinner, but I just came from Delaware. But Angelina has agreed to pretend that she's Jason, so I'm going to tell Jason, you are not the beneficiary of my philanthropic goodness or a pure and resolution. You are the beneficiary of my revenge. And your assignment is to show those personnel men, show those Ivy Leaguers that they were wrong in 1964. They were wrong when they talked about that much later in my career and all the years in between, and they're still wrong today. Your job, when you accept this scholarship, is to go out and show them that SIU is as good as anybody out there, and to help us prove that this university is worthy of everybody's attention. Can you do that? Go, Jason. Come on, let's go.
Thank you, Judith. Wow. What a great story. I will tell you, we look at what motivates donors. Revenge has never been on the list we've thought about. So, and along those lines, I do want to recognize, we've got a number of our colleagues here tonight, our great fundraising team of the foundation. Could you all stand and be recognized by the audience? Please, all of you, please stand. It's a great job you do. Monday morning, we'll talk about revenge. So, okay, Judith, that's great talk. Thank you. Wow, what a great career, and what a great representative of this university, and just giving back. Thank you so much. You are making a difference, and we really appreciate it. Our next featured speaker is one of our undergraduate recipients. He's a senior from up near Chicago in automotive technology. I had the chance to sit with Angelina at dinner. And oh my God, you're going to love to hear from her. You're just so inspiring. She's got an incredible story to tell. So everybody, please welcome Angelina Lopez, our student speaker.
I'm going to steal my notes out of the podium. Good evening. First and foremost, I would like to thank all of our donors for being here tonight and those who are not. And Salukis, welcome. My name is Angelina Lopez, or Angelina, and I am a senior in the SIU Automotive Technology program. And Judith, as a female in the male-dominated industry, you got that revenge coming for you. I came to SIU in the fall of 2019. I found an RSO to join and a place to call home. When it came time to register for the spring semester, I didn't have the money to pay my Burstar bill enough to be able to register. I received an emergency grant from a donor like you guys tonight. I would not be standing here before you today if it hadn't been for donors like yourselves. 5 days before my sophomore year, on August 11th, I had my son, Nova, in the middle of a pandemic. I was both a full-time single mom and a full-time student. I worked hard to get where I am, to get my work done on time. And if that meant he was in the wrap and I was doing homework, that's what it meant. I often found myself reading my textbooks to Nova so he would fall asleep, as he often found them boring. maybe it's because he didn't understand. We'll find out. Surprisingly, that was one of my best semesters in college. I made the dean's list, and I got a 4.0 GPA that semester. With the scholarships and grants, Nova and I have a small on-campus apartment. His first words, his first steps, and first holidays all happened on SIU grounds. Talk about a future Saluki. SIU always will be the place Nova and I call home. My junior year, Nova turned 1, and I learned how to manage my time and get my assignments done on time, managed to get him to daycare, and take care of him all alone. But I wasn't actually all alone. My faculty and staff, they became my village. They not only helped me with toys for the little guy, but they would always ask how he was and how I was doing. That year, I received an Ally Automotive Dealership scholarship. My son was in the crowd as I accepted my scholarship, and I'm not sure that he understood, but he was clapping along with everyone as I accepted my scholarship. And I'm not sure if he realized that or not, but that'll be a moment that I will always remember. I must thank SIU for allowing me to speak tonight. When I first found out I was pregnant, my family told me that I should move home, that I wouldn't be able to do it on my own. I had one family member who even called me a disappointment. Not only did SIU have my back, but they never told me that I couldn't do it. In fact, I received tremendous support from faculty and staff. My advisor helped me with resources and getting Nova into the on-campus daycare. I worked in the parts store with Kay, who was always asking to see my ultrasounds and always asking, oh, how big's the baby now? They made sure that I was flexible with my schedule, that I can maintain doctor's appointments and maintain a job so that my son would have a good life. My teachers would ask how I was doing and checked in on me, and SIU became my Carbondale family. I could not have done it without them, but most importantly, I could not have done it without any of our donors here tonight. With the utmost sincerity and from the bottom of my heart, thank you. Every single one of you, without knowing it here tonight, allowed me to continue my education, allowed all of us Salukis in this room to continue our educations. I realized that I would not have the opportunity and ability to be here without our donors. My son wouldn't have a village, and I wouldn't be graduating in May as a first-generation college student with cum laude honors. Matt mentioned earlier tonight that each and every one of you are a person to somebody. You are that person to me, and thank you.
I'm going to ask you all keep standing if you would. If you would. We've got Jason Flynn here, photographer. When you leave here, we want every donor with your students taking pictures. You can't leave the building if you hadn't had a picture, okay? This has been a spectacular night. Q, could you come up here for a second? This is going to be a bit hokey, but I did this with the FFA students last year. It was one of the most fun things I've ever done in my life. So you're going to keep standing, and on 3, we're going to say, go dogs. And we're going to say it really loud. And Q is going to lead us in this. So it's going to be 1, 2, 3, Q, and go dogs, okay? But it's got to be loud, right, Q? Okay, just like it's going to be the Banterra Center, Jeff May, when Q's out there in the court. So ladies and gentlemen, Q's going to lead us in the last chant. Here, come on.
Go dogs on 3, 1, 2, 3.
Go dogs! One more time, Q, one more time, one more time.
Go dogs on 3, 1, 2, 3. Go dogs!
All right, thanks all. Thank you for all, everybody. Have a great night. Thanks for making this a great university.